Hello, everybody. I hope you're having an amazing day one. We're going to wrap today up with somebody who I'm sure you've already figured out is near and dear to my heart because she is part of the breathing soul of the Turning Leaves practice. Anyway, everybody, Krysten Fielder is here with us to help us with our limiting beliefs. Krysten, thank you so much for being here and doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. I want to be mindful again as we're diving into this summit, guys. You're going to hear me say this a lot. We're going to be really mindful of your time and do our best to keep each one of these segments to a really comfortable amount of listening time. So we're going to dive just straight in. I promise you're going to have lots of opportunity to really get to know Krysten throughout this conversation. But Krysten, you talk about the transformative power of our mindset. And before we dive way too much into that, I would like to know if you wouldn't mind, right, sharing a bit about your own journey and how shifting your own mindset helped you overcome some of your biggest challenges and obstacles.
You know, before I changed any of my mindset, I was very much in a fixed mindset. I was always saying things like, oh, I can't do that, or oh, I'm not, I don't have the time for that. And, all those beliefs that were keeping me fixed in where, I couldn't advance, I couldn't move forward, I couldn't do anything. I wasn't even going backwards. I was just stuck in that one space. And it wasn't until heard someone speak in a podcast and they had said, instead of saying, I can't, start asking yourself, how can I? And in that moment, it shifted everything for me. I was like, okay, so every time I was hit with a roadblock, I would ask myself, how can I? How can I make this work? Because the reality of it is every challenge we face has a serve and a limit. And it's a matter of being able to really look into that, to really see, where that is, to be able to shift it.
So, because I know you on a very personal level, right? But I know that a lot of the folks that are listening today, unlike me, right, whose kids are all grown and out of the house, I know that a large part of what you're referring to is how you were operating as a parent and how I was like, what is this? um just kind of if I mean maybe you can connect with folks a little bit in that space of that personal part for you.
Okay. So, being a parent, once we become parents, it doesn't come with a handbook. And we definitely have a lot of our stuff and our baggage that we still have ourselves. Like the mother wound and stuff like that. Like it's real, it's there. And so when we start to heal that and start working on our limiting beliefs, like a lot of the parents I've been working with, they don't feel like they're adequate enough. They're not the Pinterest mom. They're not that parent who has those beautiful pictures, or, they're not the size they think they should be, or, whatever it is. Because, after we have kids, our bodies don't go back. So, it was just a matter of being able to change my mindset to where it was like, I am enough and it is okay to practice self-care because it's not selfish. Being able to lean into that space made it better for me to be able to tend to my children,
Hmm.
to be able to show up in a calmer, more centered space.
I love okay, and I'm gonna try to keep myself on track because I'm like, ooh, like I know all the juicy goodness, but I don't want to get ahead of people. So, a lot of people don't realize how, mm, how grave the impact of limiting beliefs are, right? So if we can maybe, lean into what they are and how they subtly keep us stuck. Like, I know you started to talk about, like, I can't do this, I can't do this. But when we're talking about, and it doesn't even have to be in our relationships with our children, the relationships with our, romantic partners, our spouses, our whatever, siblings, whatever age group you're in, and whatever those close relationships are, that those limiting beliefs, really put us in a place where, we don't lead by a very good example. And so, maybe you could lean into that impact because it's pretty grave.
Yes, yes, I agree. So limiting beliefs, so those are those sneaky and subconscious lies we tell ourselves that tend to hold us back. They sound things like, I'm not smart enough, people like me don't deserve happiness. I'll never be successful. Or, I mean, some of us, we talk about our body size, like I'll never be that skinny or, buff or whatever, we tell ourselves. And, these are all the beliefs that are usually rooted in our past. They're shaped by experiences, societal expectations, and they keep us playing small. They're acting like mental roadblocks and sabotaging us from like before we even start, really. Um, I like to use a car analogy. So you just imagine trying to drive with the emergency brake on. You
Mm.
can have all the motivation in the world, but you'll never move forward until you release those brakes. Those beliefs are just fears and they're masquerading as truth, And so the first step to breaking free is becoming aware of them. Once you see them for what they are, they're just noise. You start rewriting your narrative and taking your control back of your life.
So and I have lots of stories, right? Raising 5 kids, and, two of them being, girls. I can lead in because I hear you talking about, as women that have had children, right? Like, I can lean into, like, my limiting beliefs or what they used to be as somebody that, has battled with, you know, just different body image, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, those kinds of things. Like the lens that I was leading from, my own lens, before I understood exactly what you're talking about, those limiting beliefs, is one, that I had to do whatever it took to always be in the space of being in that effort of going back to that whatever size was previous, before, at a certain age or whatever. Like, I don't know, like, none of us are supposed to stay the same size as we were when we were 16. We're not completely grown. Anyway, but to lead by that, like, oh, like, I'm always going to take pride in my physical body because my husband deserves for me to care for my physical body. And to sit there and, like, in front of them, be measuring my waist, measuring my legs, looking at those things and kind of tracking. And of course, this was a long time ago, but it was about 27 years ago. But, like, so my limiting beliefs of me being worthy if I was to get bigger, kind of the opposite, like, but I don't know. But, I had that limiting belief that I was going to be unlovable if I got bigger. And so it was a hyper fixation for me for a long time, but I was leading by that example. And in that result, right? Like, my girls are very hyper body conscious. Now, we've done a lot of work over the 27 years to, like, reverse out, like, the damage that I did. But it's there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I actually have a couple stories on something like that. My daughter, back before I started working on mindset and all that, I was worried about my weight, because I'm three kids deep and I'm not getting any younger. So it's a little harder, and that's okay. But, you know, I was hard on myself there for a while. And I didn't realize that she was paying attention to that until she started counting carbs, and she was only 7. And I was asking how many calories. And I was like, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. She said, well, you do it. And I'm like, okay, so that's fair, you know? So I really had to be more mindful of that and start, if I wanted to talk about weight, I would say something like, because it was true, I was trying to be healthier, with diabetes and all that in our family, I was trying to get rid of that possibility the best way that I could. But she didn't see that part. And so, I had to really work on how my delivery was in that, how I delivered it, what I was doing, if I was weighing or like measuring my thighs for like, you're trying to hit some goals. Don't do it in front of her. Don't lead that example.
So I mean, this is for me, it's really bringing back in that, what you brought up a little bit ago, which was the difference between that fixed mindset. Now we're not talking about I can't, but how can I? It's still, it is though. How can I lead by a great example for my daughter while I am, being mindful of my own physical health, right? But you mentioned the difference between that fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So I know that this is, a big topic out there in the world. And the way I see it, a lot of the folks that are talking about it, I don't know. They have it a little off for me. And I know that you don't. And it's why I asked you to have this topic in this space. So break that down, if you would, break down these terms and why embracing a growth mindset, especially in the conversation we're talking about now. It doesn't even have to be the kids. Again, it could be our spouse, but how embracing or why embracing that growth mindset is so powerful in a personal transformation.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I had to take forever to get that question out.
So fixed versus growth. So the fixed mindset, it convinces you that your abilities and circumstances are set in stone. It's making that really, really hard to push forward when challenges arise. The growth mindset, however, is about believing in the power of change. It's the opposite of fixed because of just telling yourself, I can't. You're asking yourself, how can I? So you're not just sticking yourself in the shit.
Right.
So yeah. So like the growth mindset, it would look like, you'd be embracing challenges, persisting through the obstacles, inspired by other success, not always, feeling threatened by their success, because that would be more of a fixed mindset. And then learns from the criticism instead of taking it as a personal attack. Whereas the fixed mindset, that's normally ignores feedback, gets very threatened by others' success, gives up easily, avoids challenges, stuff like that. So that's how that would
challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you guys, I don't know, right? And okay, so we'll just lean into this because there's a lot of people I know that are listening are here because they feel overwhelmed with anxiety or self-doubt. And so when we're afraid to, or we are avoiding challenges, which are just an invitation to change or learn, people that are resistant for change, right, are really fearful of learning something new. And so, so when we get into this space where we're overwhelmed with anxiety and self-doubt, we have to go like, how can I get into a growth mindset? How can I trust in that process? So what's the actionable step that those folks that are sitting in overwhelmed with anxiety and self-doubt, what can they take today to start breaking free from those limiting beliefs?
Okay. So, yeah, because, having that anxiety and the self-doubt, I mean, that can be really almost paralyzing. So like my quick go-to mindset reset ritual kind of looks like you would stop and take 5 minutes and just sit quietly while you're just breathing deeply, whether you have, you can have some low meditation music going. I personally like having some incense going. That's just me. But if I am in a space that I can't have any of those things, I will remove myself to a quieter space and just focus on my breathing and my breathing in deep and out slowly. After, 5 minutes of doing that, the first 3 limiting beliefs that come up into my mind that I have been carrying around because they're the most prominent, I will take each one and I will ask, is it true? Or is it just fear knocking on my door trying to hold me back?
Mm.
And then, once you have those 3 limiting beliefs, you need to flip the script. So this is where I'm not good enough turns into I'm learning and growing every day, or whatever that sounds like for you, and then once you have those new and empowering beliefs and you have them written down, make sure that, whatever you change them to, you post those bad boys everywhere. I have mine with expo marker on my mirror. So as I'm getting ready and doing the thing, I'm seeing all these things and I'm like, yeah, I am a bad bee, yes, obviously, and that's my morning routine. I have some on post-its at my desk. I have all of these little reminders of how I want to show up in the world and how I want to feel when I show up in the world.
I love that one. That's like my favorite, right? Like, how do I want to see myself experiencing living in this time and space, this moment, in this event, in this whatever? It's my absolute favorite because it only matters how I want to experience it. And if I go in knowing, right? Like, I love your morning routine. I love your rituals of writing things on the mirror and all of those things. I remember when I first started my journey, right? Like post-it notes all around, moving them around. And I still, have little different things that I do. Now, you've helped, I know because I get to witness, but you've helped countless women rewrite their stories. And so I think it'd be really interesting for folks to hear what some of the most common limiting beliefs that you've seen, especially among moms juggling a family, work, and self-care.
Okay. Yeah. So, the most common ones I hear is that they're not adequate enough. They aren't doing enough activities with their kids, or they're not crafting enough, or reading to them enough, or, because they have these pictures in their heads, either it's from the television or through Pinterest, wherever they're seeing it. Social media is the catalyst for a lot, good and bad. So, they have this thought in their mind of how they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be balancing work and cooking these big meals and prepping these huge lunches and looking a certain way and acting a certain way. And you can't yes. Oh my gosh, it kills me so bad. I just, they have to be the perfect wife and, you know, whatever that is.
I haven't
Okay,
figured it out yet.
right. I think I'm doing pretty dang good, but you know, that's just me, toot my own horn, you know, but and it's just a matter of reframing that and just practicing grace. You know, a lot of these moms, they put so much pressure on themselves to be everyone or everything to everyone, and they forget themselves. And they're the biggest critic of themselves. They won't practice self-care because they're more worried about what their kids are doing or thinking or feeling, or, you know, and instead of taking time for themselves to just kind of reset, recenter, and really connect with themselves, they can't give 100% to their kids either because they're not giving 100% to themselves.
So this is what I hear, just to interject for a sec. I hear like, I don't have time, like I have to, do the laundry. I have to get up. I got to do breakfast. I got to get, get the kids, out of bed, and, they're getting breakfast served to them on the couch, whatever. Right. And then I got to, then I got to get them all squared away. I take them to school. I go do, you know, whatever. And then I come home and I clean. I got to, clean the bathrooms and vacuum and this and that and do the laundry. And then it's time to pick them up, and then they have all the after school curriculum and the whatever, and then it's time for dinner, and then I have to do that, and then I have to take care of my husband's needs and this, and it's almost as if the house has to be, and I've had plenty of these clients, and I know that I attracted them because it used to be me. Right? Husband's coming home from a trip, got to make the house look like a model home. Kids don't breathe, don't touch anything, like, and it was all me. It was all me. It wasn't about him. He was, the first time he came home and the laundry wasn't put away. It was still in the laundry room. He was like, whatever, where's my underwear? And I'm like, it's in the laundry room. Okay, thanks. Like, but like it wasn't, he wasn't even stressed or worried. I was stressed and worried about things looking and being perfect. Oh, anyway, sorry, squirrel. But so if we have these moments, and it's like, wow, we set ourselves up for that. We set ourselves up for that. So, in that case, because I know you're nodding and I know that you relate, and I know that, a lot of us here do, to just little things, right? We fall into the comparison trap on social media. We have perfectionism when it comes to, comparing who's the best wife in our social groups, or who's, I don't know, who throws the better party, or we all have those things. So, when you have that, part of that I know is driven by doubt and fear. And so how do you personally, because I think it's really, nice to hear how you personally do, or, had to do, how did you handle those moments? And are there specific mindset practices or rituals, that help you stay grounded and resilient when that fear and doubt creep in?
Mm.
I'm throwing her for a loop, everybody.
Ah, you did. So in those moments, I have a lot of them, especially, I have my sister-in-law, she's a professional photographer. So I see all of the beautiful pictures that she takes, and I'm like, wow, that's really great. I want to take pictures like that. Oh, they must, and I really can fall down that rabbit hole. I can if I let myself. And I'll catch myself and be like, okay, but let's think about the days they're trying to get them to do their homework. Do they look like that? No, 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 probably not. So I have to bring myself back down to earth and be like, these are people. All of these guys are people who have their own challenges, their own strengths, And you know what? They got dressed up as I would and went and took some pictures because they wanted to like snapshot that beautiful moment. Because there's no way that they look like that all the time. Could you imagine? No way. It's like walking around with a permanent smile.
Yeah. No. No. And fear, fear is really, our own nemesis, I think. One of the things I ask myself is what's the worst thing that could happen? And I know it's a hard thing, especially if it's, more of a safety kind of fear. Like, I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid, I'm going to get hurt. But most of the time, it's people are fearing social judgment. And so, in that fear of social judgment, I think, I don't know, for me, it's, do if somebody's going to judge me harshly for what I think, feel, and believe, it, why would I fear that? The worst thing that could happen is that they tell me they vehemently disagree. And what happens next is completely up to me. And it's like, help me understand.
Yeah.
Or, well, clearly we don't see eye to eye on that one. Next topic.
You know what? That's one of my favorite things that you say. Because you know, I don't know how many times I've had to use that, where I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. That's just how I see it. We don't have to see eye to eye. Anyways, I'll just say anyways.
Yeah.
Literally, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Like, in the grand scheme of things, why try to be anything other than yourself? How many fads have we been through if you think about it? I could literally go through my closet and I can tell you when I was a punk rocker, when I was in the rap, I was in the country. I don't even know what phase that one was. I'm not sure. But they were all masks in some shape or form to fit in because I was worried about not fitting in with the people. And you know what else? It never worked. I just had cool clothes. You have to be able to do the inner work to really begin to love yourself. And even if that is just knocking 3 limiting beliefs down at a time and flipping the script on it and posting it everywhere and telling it to yourself every time you are feeling overwhelmed or you hit a roadblock and you want to say, I can't. No, no, how can you? You can. It might just take another attempt or tweak and refine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wording. It's all in what we tell ourselves. And I was listening to a podcast and they were saying about how positive words of affirmation, just positive thinking in general, as well as oh my gosh, it was positive thinking was something else. I literally wrote it down. It was the most amazing flipping thing. It was Ed Milet. Do you remember what he was saying?
Oh,
Yes. See,
no, I don't. But you know what? We can drop it in the community chat.
Okay.
We can drop it in there.
Oh, right there. It takes 15 seconds of thinking a positive thought to begin to change and attract that same vibrational frequency. It says positive thoughts and truth have a higher vibrational frequency than what, being negative or being untruthful. So, yes, low vibrational. So you can tell what your truth is if you gauge how you're feeling as you say it.
Absolutely. I love that show. I love that. Anyway, we're like, listen to Ed. Listen to Ed. He's really cool. Hey Ed, if you're listening, we love you. Anyway, I digress. But one of the things and that I worked on a lot and for years and now teach and coach is, again, I think I brought it up, right? How do I want to see myself experiencing living in this time space, whatever. But then it's on the end of that, I'll leave the middle part out, but at the end of that is, how do I want to be received? So if we're talking about being in a growth mindset and we're talking about leading by good example of how I want my spouse to treat me, of how I want my kids to grow up thinking about their body, or how I want my kids to think, feel, and believe about self-soothing and self-care. Like, how do I want to be received? So it's, not even as much how do I want to see myself experiencing living, how do I want to be received?
Yeah. So one thing that I, definitely do, okay, I try. I'm not perfect, but I definitely try to be more mindful and more present, because at that point, everything just feels like it slows down and everything feels like it just means that much more, especially when I am slowing down to listen, to understand instead of to respond. You know what I mean? Because if I'm listening to respond, there's no thought, there's no heart in it. There's no nothing. So if I'm talking to my 4-year-old and he's like, look, mom, and I'm like, that's great. Great. Bye. That's not the mom I want to be. So if I just slow down and be more one mindful in the moment and present and set that tone and that expectation for those around me, the interactions are a lot better, and modeling what self-care and self-love looks like. Boundary setting is definitely a big one as well in this household. As well as just openly communicating. It's definitely very helpful. And even I talk to my 4-year-old, I talk to him, like he obviously not 100% like he's a grown up, but I will have a conversation with him and he understands a lot more than a lot of the 4-year-olds I've come across. And
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but don't you think it's better to talk to them like a human being and have them ask questions or say, I don't get it, so that you can explain it? Because everybody's a unique individual amoeba, right? Like, I know when I was 4, I understood at the same level as my, sibling that was in the 6th grade. But because we just had different cognitive abilities when it came to comprehension. Didn't make me any better than her, just made my comprehension level higher.
Like even just my 3, I have a 10-year-old who I talked to like he was an adult when he was little, and now he's very articulate. He loves to read and everything else. Then I have my 8-year-old. She struggles. That's why we're homeschooling her. But man, she's smart as a whip and like survival skills. And and that's just in that season when she was learning the most is when I was in an IOP program, getting my stuff together. But, and so the mom guilt has crept in from time to time, and I've had to flip that too, and that was really rough. But, and then my 4-year-old, I'm home with him now. So he's smart as a whip. I mean, he's the only one that can ride a hoverboard and dance disco. Somehow he learned disco. I don't ask questions,
Grandma.
but clearly. But you can see like the different in just how I talked to them or how present I was. And the sad thing is you can see it too in the pictures.
Yeah.
And those are
Ooh, it's just so, and I love how you brought in, being one mindful and the power of that. I remember, like my kids, they'd all come in and it'd be like this barrage of blah, 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 blah. Like, I want to give you the attention you deserve. Is this something that, does it feel critically urgent to you, or is it something that could wait 10 minutes so I can wrap up what I'm working on because I want to give you that love, that attention, that focus. And so if they said, it felt critically urgent to them, I would just and physically turn away from whatever I was doing. And so we get to be that one mindful, or and I think, we were chatting earlier about the now moment, right? And it's, if we give those little spaces, those little mini events that happen throughout our day, if we give them that undivided attention, when somebody says something to you later, like the kid says, oh, I need, when are we going to go get this? What are you talking about? I told you. And it's like, well, you almost can't argue with them because if you don't remember, so you have to. So when I started practicing that way, I could say, one, because I no longer was drinking alcohol in the evenings, and two, I was very specifically practicing that one mindful approach to, I'm listening to this person over here. Let's wait our turn, write it down on a piece of paper if you need to, so you don't forget, because I'm only gonna focus here. And then, we had 5, go down the line. Anyway, but when I started doing that, then, one, they didn't have to remind me as much. 2, I could remind them better. And 3, there wasn't so much, of everybody forgetting things, because we were actually paying attention. We were actually communicating, not just throwing words out into the air and hoping they landed somewhere.
that is so true. I literally vision my kid walking in saying something and I'm like working and yeah. And he's like, well, I told you I was hungry. I'm like, first off, you know where the snacks are, you know. Second, was I paying attention? Did you, smack me in the back of the head or something? I don't know. Get my attention. I'm busy.
Yeah. My daughter-in-law, she started just saying, the kids would just put their hand on the shoulder. One, that was to get them to cut down on their interrupting. And 2, it was to let them know, like, hey, I'd like to have a minute of airspace, like, and that would be all it was. And then it was a quiet nudge. But anyway, it worked for them. I don't know.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Cut down on the mom. Anyway, so it just, again, to be mindful of everybody's time. If you could think of, for those parents that are sitting here saying, you know what, I want to model a growth mindset, and maybe not even just parents, people in marriage, people in relationships, even people in a professional relationship inside of their work or whatever, because not everybody's a coach that's in, that forward moving momentum mindset. Some people are still going to 9-to-5 corporate jobs. If they want to model a growth mindset but struggle with their own limiting beliefs, what's the first thing? And I'm sure you've already said it, but what is that number one thing to help them? And along with the worksheet down below, but what's that one thing that you would say, start here 100%?
I would honestly do a breathing exercise. I would carve out some time in the day, do a breathing exercise. And it can only, it could be just the 5 minutes. And then once you're done doing the breathing exercise, and try to make it in a calm space, whether that's your bedroom or in your car, even during a lunch break, whatever it is, and just write down as many limiting beliefs as you can, flip them, like make them your mantra. I don't care where you put them, just put them there and make sure that you voice them at least 3 times a day. Because at that point, when you're writing your affirmations, your new ones, make sure that you feel into them, and make sure when you say them out loud, they feel true for you, or they hold some like vibration for you. And you usually will feel it more in your chest, in your throat and chest area, normally, from what I'm hearing. From what I've got all my, practicing. And it'll feel true for you. And those are the ones that you should post everywhere. Make sure that you say them to yourself 3 times a day. And if you're ever feeling stuck or unsure, those are the things that you're going to want to lean into and really breathe life into. Whether you sit there and while you're saying it, with every time you say it, you take a deep breath in and blow out, you're dispelling the negative energy and you're bringing in the positive vibration that you're speaking for. And so
got a little glimpse of her vibrational work. I'm just telling you, like, there's so much more to what Krysten does. So before we wrap up, because I do want, I'd love for us to have like a secondary segment, and maybe we'll do a round table with a couple of you guys for December. But I'd love to bring in some of that vibrational work, some of that shadow work, and allow people to hear, see, and experience that piece of you. But that's bigger work, right? Like that's bigger work. It's a bigger topic. But if you were to give everyone like that one message that you hope that they take away from our time and space right now, what is that?
Ooh.
I know. Pick one.
One? Okay. So I would have to say that your limiting beliefs only have power if you let them. You are the one that holds the pen, and every day is a chance to rewrite your story. So don't let fear be the author. You step into your own power, believe in your own worth, and create a life that you desire. Because your limiting beliefs only have power in them if you let them. Because you are capable of shifting, and you are enough. Your future is waiting for you.
I love that. I can't wait to jump in. I have more questions that I want to ask. I feel like we're just getting started. So, but there's lots of other opportunities for people to kind of keep on this journey with you, and they'll learn about those through the worksheet, and then they'll learn about them in your free gift, assuming everybody is operating from a place of confidence, and they're feeling comfortable getting on a chat with me to do that feedback call, right? Like, this is day one. You're going to hear me say this, say it a lot. Like, I'm not holding back the freebies because I want to spend time with you to sell you something. There is absolutely nothing to buy in this entire summit. Like, I'm asking you to come to a feedback call so that we can hear from you how you liked this style of a summit. What was your experience with it? And so that I can give you everybody's free gifts that they poured into. And by doing it that way, you're not going to end up on 11 or 12 different email lists either. It'll only be those that you sign up for, or the ones that you want to engage with, or the ones that you want to download. I don't know. It's going to be completely in your control. And that's why we're doing it this way. Anyway, Krysten, I love it. And I wish we could really lean into the vibrational shift that limiting beliefs really cause, because that's the juice. And believe me, when I get into a space, like, I'll call Krysten. I don't remember what it was. Oh, it was when my client passed away, and I was talking to Krysten, and like, she had me, I slept with my crystal by my heart, because like, we were talking, she's like, do this because it's going to help heal your heart. I literally slept with it all night. Like, well, I won't tell you how I kept it on my chest, but anyway, but so there's so much that we could all learn from each other about growing and shifting and restructuring things. And like, some of us are a little more heady and more cognitive, and rewiring of the brain, and others of us, insert Krysten, are a little more in that energetic field. And let me tell you, they're both important. So I look forward to, and I hope hopefully folks will ask you questions in the chat about vibrational energy of limiting beliefs in the community, so that you can talk and share about that. But maybe you can toss out in the community chat some other things, right? Like, you could send out some bullets of like, how they can monitor what is that vibration that might help them identify when it is a limiting belief. Because I know when I'm having a limiting belief, or I'm having fear or anxiety, because I've taken time to study my body's physical reactions. Anyway, so you could do that. That would be amazing. Okay, you and I can sit here and brainstorm. So let's let everybody take off, right? And Krysten, thank you again. Like, juicy goodness. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you guys in a bit.